Different browser. I have PowerPoint stuff, so that might actually show up a little better.
He brings up a good. I mean, like maybe I'm.
This is okay.
Because when you email me like the PDF.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want.
My better instinct says no, but my respect says yes.
You don't have PowerPoint installed?
I do.
Yeah, then it's should
It's not giving you a virus.
Oh,
It's no rubber duck. Is that good?
yeah. Great. Thanks.
I love graduate.
No, I love that. I'm excited for next year.
Presenter mode?
I really hope like. Do you have notes? Like notes on this slide? Like, do you need presenter mode?
No, I don't have notes.
Say again?
Yeah, I don't need a presenter mode.
Slideshow? Slideshow.
Then
From begin.
uncheck presenter.
That's perfect.
It showed on my screen.
People were like, who is this machine?
Then it started like 405. 305.
Yeah. Like I don't know. I find it really good.
That's crazy.
No, I can no. I can find people.
So what do you plan to do today?
Say again?
What do you plan to do today?
Oh, I'm presenting on using Python for embedded programming. So it should just be like an introduction to basic Python stuff. And ask people to consider trying.
Very good.
Barber. This resume is beautiful.
It's just impossibly important.
Someone at the YouTube on the YouTube profile. We have 2 months. We have 2 months till then. It's literally, if it was not a leap year, it would be March right now. And then we have a week off in the spring. We can't use it to school.
Oh yeah.
I'm all about the ball. Tuesday popped off. This is the only time to pop on the certificate.
You want me to start, or you want me to wait for a few more minutes?
Or actually, I can do the 13th.
I'll be happy to do that. Hopefully, more students will come in. Yeah.
You could honestly save like 3 hours
Yeah.
because of driving there.
You could save 6 hours.
You can explore. San Antonio is like a
It's actually pretty good, but yeah. Except for
I'll do my 8th essay thing. It's like current responsibilities.
talk about like you're talking about your day at work. Jim, you talk about your day at work all the time.
You don't ever talk about work.
Yes, you do. You're such a liar.
I hate work. Okay, I love work. I'm sorry.
Yeah, then you say that. Always talking to people. Oh my, that's a paragraph too.
The word limit is 17.
It's due tomorrow. Dude, you need to write this.
Okay.
Just put in No, do it right now.
Or do it after. I actually kind of want to learn about Python. Sorry. Is that what you use for coding? You use dictionaries for pen. But I still hate that we picked that one. Okay? Because it's called the ABCD. Oh. That one. You're crazy.
There you go. Well, y'all are free to grab any snacks or drinks before we get started. We'll get started here in about a couple minutes.
I had my exam yesterday.
I got tagged.
I did all my multiple choice correctly. We were allowed to listen to music for our exam.
Oh, and I didn't get tagged in either. Like,
Me too. I was like,
oh, okay.
The exam was pretty chill. This is the first Friday. I got one recording question for good. I couldn't finish it though.
Welcome to our next Intro to Tech. But before we get started, I'd like to hand off to Professor Bakwana. He's going to talk about an amazing opportunity for y'all, one of the scholarship opportunities, and you have the floor.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. As Jacob mentioned, I'm Raj Bopana. I'm a faculty member in the computer science department. So I want to talk about an exciting scholarship program that we offer here. Dr. Greg White, some of you may know, and Dr. Phil Menard, he's in the information systems department. They're also project faculty along with me for this particular program. So this kind of summarizes what the scholarship offers. The tuition and the academic fees are paid for 2 years, or could be longer, 2 to 3 years. And
Where is this going?
and for undergrad students, there's a stipend for 9 months in each year, $27,000, and then you're obligated to do an internship with a government agency during the summer. So, and then you also get up to $6,000 in terms of purchase for books, laptops, iPads, tablets, course materials, and if you have a research project working with, let's say, some faculty member and requires some equipment to be purchased, you can also do that with these funds. It's a total of $6,000 extra. And there is also a job fair every second week of January, so you are required to attend that one while you are in the program. So that's the nuts and bolts of the scholarship program. There is a big catch. The government doesn't give you money for free. This is a National Science Foundation sponsored project. The catch is you need to work for the government for an equal amount of time. Let's say you got 2 years of scholarship, then you need to work for the government for at least 2 years. And you also need to be a student focusing on cybersecurity. Maybe taking a cybersecurity concentration, cyber abstract, or in information systems, cybersecurity degree program, or a cybersecurity minor, one of those. Could also be a computer engineering student pursuing cyber-related courses. You need to take at least 4 cyber courses to be eligible for this program. So, and in that professional development funds under supplies, you can also prepare for certificate exams, and you can even buy certificate preparation materials, all that as part of that $6,000. If you're a graduate student, the stipend is $37,000 per year. Actually, it's actually for 9 months, and then 3 months you work approximately 2.5 years for the government as an intern while you're in the program. Any questions? You need to work for the government, and you are going to be in the cybersecurity program or career if you go to this scholarship program, which means that you are more than likely you are required to have a secret or top secret clearance. So you need to make sure that you can get at least a secret clearance, maybe a top secret clearance from the government to be able to work for the government. Some of the agencies that you can go to are in the executive branch of the federal government. This program is specifically created to train students interested in going to work for the government, especially in the executive branch of the government. That includes the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, Department of State, sometimes Department of Interior. Pretty much every federal agency or office or department, they all require cybersecurity experts. And you can find a variety of positions on the agencies where you can go and work for Reserve Bank, for example, FDIC. So the last job fair that was held in back in last month, January, there were almost 90 agencies from the federal branch, executive branch, that came to recruit students. So although getting internship and getting a job with the federal government your responsibility. The 3 faculty members, including me, and we work with you to help you get an internship or a job as a kid. If you are in the program, continuing the program, pass the summer, then you need to get an internship. If you're graduating, then you need to get a job. So there are like 90 plus booths with, from different, many federal agencies trying to recruit students for summer internship or job. So that's one opportunity. Throughout the year, you'll have plenty of opportunities to apply to federal agencies and look for a job. Generally speaking, it's a kind of a long process. Getting to the technical part is actually the easy part because they all know how rigorous SFS students are, how high performing SFS students are. So the technical part is not the most difficult aspect. Once you get to the technical part, once they decide to hire you as an intern or an employee, you need to fill a long form giving all the details about yourself. There will be a background investigation, and then after that, sometimes some positions, or almost all positions, require polygraph testing, especially the ones with the DoD regulators, NSA, CSA, CIA, and all those. So that's the catch. But on the other hand, this is a fantastic program, and we get tons of opportunities to network with cybersecurity researchers in the government. And frankly, if you are going to be in the cybersecurity and you want that's your starting point in the career, then you probably do well going to the government and working for the government, because the kind of jobs you can get, the kind of projects you get, the kind of mentoring you get, and the kind of career development opportunities you get in the government are fantastic, especially for a beginning career person. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
It's open to every any grade level, right?
Actually, you need to have at least 2 years left in the degree program. We make some exceptions. Sometimes we take students who have only 1 year left, but those are kind of rare exceptions because the you need to have at least one summer of internship to get a good feel for how to pursue a job with a federal agency. So that's why we want to see at least 1.5 to 2 years of time left in the degree program. But we also go sometimes all the way up to 3 years of funding. So our sweet spot is 2 to 3 years, but sometimes we make an exception to the shorter side of it. Yeah.
Is it just for undergrad, or is this just for grad?
It's for all levels, so undergrad, grad, and masters and PhD students as well. So that's why for undergrads it's 27,000, 9 months stipend, and for grad it's 37,000. And plus the academic tuition and fees, so that's probably about 12,000-13,000 per year, and that's the 27,000. So that is 40, and then another 6,000 for professional development. We're talking about 46,000. So not including the summer internship, which is paid internship. So you get paid for summer separately. Now, yeah.
I got your page. What organization are you from?
Oh, I'm in the computer science department.
Okay.
So this is a program. We got the funds from the National Science Foundation, and we take the applications, we process them. When I say we, those are the three that engage me. Okay. We process the applications, we interview the students who applied, and then we decide who will get the scholarship. So all the selection process is implemented here. And what happens? You get the scholarship, you go through the program for 2 years, and don't want to work for the government.
Something bad, I assume.
No, nothing bad. You just have to pay it back with interest. That can be, yeah, so it is for serious students. Though you need to be interested in cybersecurity, you need to be interested in working for the government. If you're not one of these two, if you don't have both interests, then this may not be the right program for you. And if you're concerned about security clearance, polygraph testing, thousands of people went through that, and they survived.
What happens if you fail the polygraph?
Usually they give another chance, and apparently most people fail first time. I haven't taken it myself, but I was told that most people fail first time because they're too nervous. One thing you don't want to do is check about how they do polygraph testing on the web. Don't ever check about polygraph testing, because that will be a question during polygraph testing. So that's why don't even go there. Yeah.
What I remember from Adam's briefing, like a polygraph specifically like measures your like heart rate and like stuff. That's good.
Yeah, but those who are testing, they are very experienced. They probably have done thousands of polygraph tests, so they know how to extract the information from you.
Someone's variation.
Yeah, it's. I was told that it's very unpleasant experience, but people survive, and then they tell stories about it. So it's not like the most horrible experience or anything. Okay. Or the other went through it. Okay. Let me see. How much time I have? Okay. These are, if you check this link, that will give you all the information you need. Let me quickly say these are all some of the federal agencies and offices that are in the executive branch, and we are very diverse. We have nearly 40% students, female students, 40% students are underrepresented minority group students. And if you want to apply, this is the site you want to go to. So this site has, you can use the QR code. This site has a copy of the slides, and also we had an information session about this program on the 6th of February. So there is a video of that information session, and it has all the information you need to apply. Okay. Just give me a couple of more minutes. Any questions? And the slides also have some information on how to ask for reference letters, probably from your faculty members, not from your fellow student or from your high school teacher. But if you can ask from a UTSA faculty member, that carries a lot of weight. Okay. And if you want to know how to write personal statements, here is some information, but the slides are there on the web. Okay. So what you need to do is go to this website. And March 6th is the deadline. We might take applications a few days late, because immediately after that is the spring break. So if you need a little bit more time, that may be okay, but try to shoot for March 6th. I hope to see many of you would apply and seek this application scholarship program. Okay, if you don't have any questions, I know that you have a full schedule. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for offering this. Like, guys, this is an amazing opportunity. Like, being able to network all this stuff and meet some incredible people through this program. It's an incredible opportunity. We will have more information, or there is some still information on our hashtag scholarships page in the ACM Discord. This link is also there as well. If you can also talk about it in the ACM Discord, I will forward all the questions to Professor Rapana here, and he'll be able to answer, or I'll answer through him. And yeah, thank you again, Chris, for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I guess I'll see you for the
Thank you very
exam.
much. Have a great session. Bye.
See you for the exam in 40 minutes. All right, and now to welcome Jonathan DeConing.
Thank you.
Gracefully taking away extra tech for me for at least this session. And yeah, take it away.
All right. I get my slides up. Let's see here. Okay. If you want to check in for ACM credit, that's the QR code. I'll just leave that up for like 30 seconds or less, probably. Okay. So, today I'm talking about Python. Python's one of my favorite languages, and it's going to just be a kind of brief introduction to Python, and then we'll have a bit of an exercise in competitive programming because that's something I'm passionate about as well, and I want to convince you guys to try it. So, why should I care? Why should any of us care, right? We already have so much in our day, pressed for time. Jacob's got an exam coming up soon. He should be prepping for that instead of sitting here. Do any of these apply to any of you? Anyone? Yeah, Diego? Another programming language. Another one. After learning Java, C, it's terrible. Why learn another one? For me, anyways, this is what my typical day looks like. I don't have enough time in my day to learn another language. This is crazy. Why am I here? C is confusing enough. This is not my thing. I don't want to do this. And these are perfectly valid concerns. Maybe you just want the membership credit. Maybe you're just here to make friends and network. I don't know. But what I will say is I want to try and convince you to maybe have a shot at Python, maybe try a bit of competitive programming. I think that you'll enjoy the experience. So, who thinks that programming is boring? Jacob does. I think coding in C can be pretty boring. All that pointer stuff kind of messes with my head. And there's a lot of like little nitpicky things in C that I just don't really like to do, and it's really annoying to code it all out, and it can be frustrating. Yeah, so Python's really nice, as we'll get into that soon. But I mean, all the info is on the slides, but I really want to encourage you guys because I think that Python can be used to think about the overall picture of what you're trying to create rather than having to go through these kind of weird details of C, which can be really annoying. And I really enjoy solving kind of interesting problems, like how would I go about doing this? And Python's a great way to think about stuff algorithmically. So we can install Python at this link. Mac already has it installed, Windows doesn't, but I think that a better option, and I would encourage everyone to pull this up, Google Jupyter Notebook. This is, you can download this as well, but you can also just do it in your browser. This is a super handy website. Just go to try, say this one, Jupyter Notebook here. And then we'll say new notebook. And that'll pull up something like this. Jupyter Notebook is really cool because you can separate out your code snippets and run them one at a time. Let's see, how do I, yes. So for example, I can say print hello ACM and run that, and it prints it out. So I'll be using that to run some code. Okay. So data types in Python are very simple. You'll notice that compared to C, Python doesn't require you to specify what type of data you have, right? There's no int my int, there's no float my float, these sorts of things. So the primitive data types are very simple. You just say the variable name and what it equals. You'll also notice there's no semicolons. So super simple. You just say what your variable is called and then put your data after the equal sign. None of this, typecasting and all that weird stuff. So these are the primitive data types. These are some complex data types. You're familiar with arrays. In Python, they're called lists, and they hold, just multiple values. One thing that's nice about Python is they don't all have to be the same data type. So your list can look like 1, 2, true, the word 17. You can mix and match, which is really helpful. Those are lists. Dictionaries. Many of you might not be familiar with dictionaries if you're in programming too. Dictionaries are one of my favorite data types. And the way it works is on the left you have a key, and on the right you have a value. And I'll open this in a Jupyter notebook. So I can say data is equal to something like this. Or actually, let's say this is a dog. Dog data is equal to this dictionary. We'll say that the breed is Doberman, and the weight is equal to 20 what? I have no idea. And the is viscous, I don't know how to spell it. Vicious is equal to false. And then we'll say print dog data weight, and this should print 20. So this is really helpful for storing keys and values, and you can do a lot of really powerful stuff with dictionaries. I don't know if we ever get to that in programming too. I'm not sure, but this is a very helpful way to store data. Yes. Yes. Yeah. A lot like struct. Yep. Let's see. And feel free to ask questions, or if you need a clarification or anything like that. That's great. Sets are pretty simple. You just denote that you have a set, and then you'll put like a list, and that'll turn it into a set. So because it's a set, it's only unique values. So this 2, that extra 2 will just get filtered out, and you'll have 1, 2, and 3. And you can do operations with sets like you would in discrete math. You can do the intersection or union with specific functions. And then tuples or tuples are kind of like an extra thing. You don't really need to know about them, but they exist, and they're not super helpful right now, but you might want to know about them. Okay, loops. So this is the way we denote like a basic for loop. We say for I in range, and then whatever we want. And so that for I in range could be just a number. It could be the length of a string. That's how you'd iterate through how many characters a string has. And the reason we say range is that actually creates something that's called a range object. But that's not really necessary. All you really have to know is that that's just going to print the numbers from 0 to 10, but it leaves out the last number, like if you're doing I is less than 10. We have a for each loop, and what that'll do is instead of looping through numbers, it'll loop through your iterable. So this will loop through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can use this variable num here however you like. It doesn't have to be lists. You can say that string is equal to Jonathan. Very egotistical. And we can say for character in S, print C like this. And then if we run this, we go like that. So, the way to do this with a for loop is we'd say for C in range, and then the length of the string, print the string indexed at C. And this is just like a cleaner way to do that, right? And then a while loop. It's very similar to C, but you don't have you don't need brackets and parentheses. And so this will just run infinitely because we never break out of the loop or change the condition or anything like that. Functions. Okay, this is a lot of code, especially for someone who's never really seen Python before. So we'll step through this bit by bit. First, we have our function declaration. This should look pretty familiar. Def stands for define, which is just our keyword to start a function. We'll say is happy, and then our parameters: sleep, money, missing all limbs, right? Again, we don't have to denote what type our variable is. We can just chuck it in there. So then we'll say, because we're calling sleep as a list, say that's like how many hours we've got of sleep per night. So then we'll say our average sleep is equal to the sum of sleep divided by the length of sleep, which should make sense, right? We add up how much sleep we got and then divide by how many days there are, and that'll give us an average amount of hours slept per day. And then we say if that's over 8 or equal to 8, and we have more money than $34.65, which is approximately 4 Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich meals, and we're not missing all of our limbs, then we'll return true and we're happy. So then outside of the function body, we'll have our variables: my sleep, my money, that's just the current day, and then our limb count. You'll notice that the limb count is different from missing all limbs, because missing all limbs is a Boolean, true or false. Limb count is 4, so the way we will convert that is we'll first convert the limb count to an integer. To a Boolean. And in Python, a 0 represents false, and any positive number represents true. So we'll say that we do have limbs, so it's true, and then we'll say not, because it wants to see if we're missing all of our limbs. That's just kind of a roundabout way to do that. It's not very intuitive, but something to think about. Okay, these are some cool things you can do with Python. I'll go over them one by one. Let's start here. List comprehensions. This is one of my favorite things about Python. It allows you to express a loop or make a new list very simply. We'll say our array is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then our new array, which we'll call squared, is equal to number times number for number in array. And that just looks really cool, and you can do this with all sorts of stuff. We can say that, say another string is equal to ACM ITT, intro to tech, and then new is equal to, say, this ord, that just converts the character into its ASCII representation, like the decimal. And I think this should work if I didn't screw it up. Yeah. So this syntax is maybe a bit confusing, but basically at the beginning you just say like what you want to do to it, and then we say what we're doing that thing to. Right, so in this example, it's the number times itself for each number in the array. You can also do dictionary comprehensions or set comprehensions, but those are a little bit more difficult and we won't get into those. Okay, in the middle here, easy swap. In C, you have to create a third variable, a temporary variable, to swap two variables. Right, you have to say like temp is equal to A, and then I don't even want to go through it. In Python, you don't have to do that. You can just say A comma B is equal to B comma A, and that works, which is amazing, and I love it. And it makes me want to give Python a hug. Helpful debugs. So this, when you prefix a string with F, that's going to turn it into like a formatted string. These are really helpful because we can say is equal to, say, 77. And then if we do print, my number is 77, this is just going to print out my number is, square, not square bracket, sorry, bracket 77 bracket, which is not what we want. Or I'm sorry, this would be more representative. But if we prefix this with F, then you'll notice it's kind of like printf, which makes sense for C, because in C you do the percent sign D, and this, instead of that, you just have it surrounded with I forget what they're called, just like brackets. So that's cool. But if you instead just say num equals, then you can debug what your variable is and what it's called, which is super awesome. Let's see. String multiplication. You can just multiply strings, which is helpful. You don't have to write like some weird logic in C and then like put it in an array and then do all this stuff. You can just multiply it, just like an integer. It's really cool. Counter. So we are importing a module that comes with Python. So there's nothing like you have to install other than just regular Python. And then we say, we'll call counter on our string, and that'll give us a counter object, which you can't really do anything with. So then you need to convert it to a list. Or I'm sorry, this should be a dictionary, not a list. And then that'll just give you the count of all that stuff in your iterable, whether that be a string or a list. It'll just count it up and tell you. And then using like dictionary notation, you can just say, okay, what's the count of A, right? You just say that, call your counter like my count. You just say my count A. Very nice. Overpowered functions. These are cool. This slide is very similar to this one, but they're just called different things. Dot reverse, that's pretty intuitive. You just reverse your array. That's cool. One of my favorite things is enumerate. So instead of saying for I in array, you can say for I comma num in enumerate array. And what this will do is it will return both the number that you're at as well as the index, right? So if you just print out the index and then the number, you can get 0, 5, 1, 10, 2, 15, 3, 20, so on and so forth. And this prevents some like weird C logic stuff where you have to make the variable outside and then keep updating it. Here you can just have it for free. It's pretty awesome. Dot split. This will just split a string into a list of all the words in the string. You don't have to call this right here, sorry. The parameter doesn't have to be empty. You can make it like a comma and then it'll split everything against the commas. And then you'll notice it doesn't include the delimiters, right? So if it was the commas, then it wouldn't include the commas in the resulting list, which is really nice. The opposite of split is join. And you actually call dot join on a string. So if you say dot join, and then you give it a list of, say, my name is Jonathan, and we'll just print that. Right? So it's just the opposite of split. Zip. Zip is cool. You just take two lists, two iterables, and combine them together. Get the first for each, get the second for each, get the third for each. So, much like a zipper, right? If these are one array, second array, you just package them up nicely. And that has a bunch of uses. It might not be readily apparent, but it's very helpful. Map. Map is really nice. The way map works is first you have a function. So in this example, we call it double it. So the function takes an integer and then returns it plus itself. So multiplies it by 2 basically. Then we have a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we say our map is equal to map double my list. So what does this do? Our first parameter is our function that we want to apply. Our second parameter is the interval or the list. And then what that'll do is it will apply that function to every single item in the list and then return it as a map object, which you can't really do anything with, so then you convert it back to a list, and then we get 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Very helpful if you want to just apply something to a list just all at once. Okay, so this is a bit of a comparison between C and Python to make and print an array of square numbers, right? So in C, you have to include standard input and output, have a main function, create your array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, semicolons, all that good stuff. Do that, declare the loop outside of the body, run a loop, all this nasty business, then say that this is equal to the first one times itself, then printf with this weird D thing that is super ugly, and then return 0. And Python, you just say array2 is equal to x times x for x in array, and then print it. That's pretty cool. Okay. So, competitive programming. I like competitive programming because it allows you to take a problem and try and solve it. And I like solving problems. The problem we have here is, and this is on a website called Caddis, which the ICPC club uses to do these types of problems. This is a pretty simple problem. It's called echo, echo, echo. And the way it works is you just want to get your input string and then print it out 3 times with spaces in between. So how do we go about doing this? The way I could solve it is say our word is equal to our input. Pretty simple. And then one way we could do this is we could say for I in range 3. Maybe we'll say our output is equal to an empty string. For I in range 3, we could say output plus equals word plus space. And then we'll say output equals output up to the length of output. And this is terrible. I'll get to why it's terrible. But this is one way we could do it. And then let me just print it. What is that? Oh my goodness. Right? Hello, hello, hello. This bit here is kind of weird. In Python, you can do what's known as slicing. And the way slicing works is if you have a string. Wait, you guys know what slicing is, or do you? Who knows what slicing is? Okay. So if we print s, so you all know what indexing is, right? So s0 is capital J. In Python, you can say -1, which is cool, and that's the last one. Alternatively, you can indicate a slice like this, and that'll give you 0, 1, 2, 3, up to 5, without the last one. And so basically, all that we're doing here is we're saying that it's equal to whatever we had up to, but not including the last character, because we're adding a space at the end, and that's not what we want. So we could replace this with like -1, and it would still work. This is one way to solve it. A better way, though, would maybe be to say word equals hello, and then we could say print. Say print space dot join word times 3. Ooh. Space dot join word for x in range 3. That's crazy. So what I'm doing here is we have our word, and then we create a list of that word 3 times using a list comprehension, and then we do space.join, which remember is the reverse of split, and then we print that. So that's like, whoa, that's pretty crazy. But you can solve this whole problem in really one line, because this would technically be input because we want it to work for any word. So you can solve that one problem in one line, whereas in C it would be like 3,500 lines, and that's terrible. Okay. Yeah. Now it's your turn. Oh boy. Yes. This is your problem. I'll explain it. So we get a line of text. So that you just get that with input, and then we want to find out how many vowels there are. So it should be relatively simple. You just need to iterate over the characters in the word, and then if it's a value, then we'll add it to some sort of running total. And if you want to check if something is in a list, instead of looping through like the whole list to see if it's equal, you can just say in, right? So if we have s equals AEIOU, print a in s, and that's true. Or you can say a not in s, and that's false. So when someone thinks they have a working solution, raise your hand and I'll come check it out. I don't want to spend like 10 minutes on this, but I thought it'd be interesting to let you guys try out a little bit of Python yourself. Five? So what? We got tons of time. Oh, this is almost finished. I thought it was like at 4. Okay. And if y'all need me to go back to a certain slide, just let me know. We don't. Is there a slide you'd like me to go back to? Not really? Okay. Tell you what. Okay. In ACM?
Yeah, what the fuck? I'm sorry, that was you. I told you, Queen D6. Bro, in the middle of my song, I look over, I'm looking at that shit, I'm like, you don't look confident.
Where is it?
That's why I like came in here. I look at my phone.
Where is it? Has it been hit this entire time? That's crazy.
Like, when I made it to I left and I like, I'm sorry. No, I told you, Queen D6. I don't know anything about chess. Anything. I don't know, you handed it to me. You could have given it to freaking Nathan. He was. You were ready for it? Yeah, I did. You took it from him.
I don't have admin access. If I need that. Said the event log. Yeah.
It's probably just for loop. It's for loop, and then you do if. I'm trying to do that. It's different for Python. You don't have to do that. Well, you do a for loop. Yeah. No. It reads the set, and then it's like if. I didn't realize the set too, right?
Lo primero es agarrar un integrable, que es
Set is a list.
una variable.
So wait, how would what would you do? It would be like the array version of Python, right? Or would you turn the string into an array first? So what's it called? It would be like if I feel stupid. If blank if learning new shit. So I want to do like an array of characters. So like vowels equals A E I O U or some bullshit. Oh, what's your capital check?
Entonces, ahora sí, empezamos lo que ya dijo. You really want to get it,
So then I want to do like for length of the string is string. Well, I want to do this, but like what if I don't want to do that?
That should be good.
Python, there's a lot of mechanisms
Para
that just do that.
hacer la comparación de vocales, ponemos las vocales
String
en una array. You're right.
Why is it giving me an error?
So, first of all, you need to
Dude, you should have seen this. Oh, it's the one downside.
Va a ayudar bastante a...
That works.
Sí, la verdad sí puede ayudar bastante. Este es el que usamos por esa misma razón, porque nos ayuda a no more great animation que va a estar siempre la razón.
Yeah, so just say so okay. You're combining two different things.
You can actually do it all.
This length is just going to give you how long it is. So you can say for I
Yeah, that's all.
do you want to go through the number 0 through 12? Say range.
Good luck on your test, Jacob.
Yeah. Alternatively, you could just say for I
hours.
straight to the I.
So that's how much
What's that? Okay. Thank you. Yes. I put the slides in the ACM Discord. Does anybody have any questions?
What is end of statement? I just read it in spring.
Oh yeah, you need
No, dude, I'm just gonna do what we're gonna do. You know how powerful I can do it? It's so weird. It's weird that you can bootstrap without blocking the water. Like what? Okay. I like it, but it's like Hey, you know what's cool? I can flex UTSA.
Thank you. Say again?
It's for the algorithm.
It's in here, but I don't see that on your. What's your Discord username? Say again. Wait, wait, wait. How do I click one way? Here you go.
It's getting posted in the Instagram.
Show of hands. Who wants to keep working on it?
I think
Okay. Who wants to see the solution? Okay. Alrighty. So. If we were to solve this like it was C, then we could say vowels. Sorry, that's okay. If we wanted to solve this like standardly, we could say vowels is equal to maybe A, E, I, O, U, and maybe Y. I don't know. Maybe not. We say S is equal to input, and then we could say for I in range length of our string, if S of I is in vowels, then say total plus equals 1, and then we can print our total. Good question. Here, give me 1 second. Okay, so length and range. So if we have a string or a list, length will just return how long that string is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks good. What range does is, if we say range 9, it just kind of prints that, which isn't very helpful. But if we convert this to a list, range basically just gives us a list of numbers in that range. So we could say range 7 to 9, and that'll give us 7 up to 8 because 9 isn't included. So what range does here, so here we're combining range and length, right? So first we get how long the sentence is, or the word, or whatever, and then we call range on that. So what that'll do is, if we go like this, print, oops. If we print the range of the length of the string, right? Because this is 8 characters long, it's just going to give us 8 different items, and so we're iterating 8 times, or however long our string is. So we get the length, and then we loop that many times. Using range is just the syntax for doing that. So this works, but it can be better. We could say that total is equal to 0, and then for or let's see, s is equal to, this is my sentence, and then we say for c and s, if c is in AIOU, total plus equals 1. That's cool. Yeah, it's one way of doing it. So here we can just see if something's in a string. We don't have to use a list. And finally, I'll show you how to do it in one line. Okay, here we go. We'll say print the length of x for x in this is sentence if x in a e I O U. So what does that do? Oh, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So how does this work? So we're just kind of condensing everything, right? So we're using a list comprehension here that says we want to get all the items in something if that item is in something else. In this case, we want to get all the x's in, this is a sentence, if that x is in IOU, which are our vowels. So then once we have that, then we're printing the length of that list, which is how many there are, and we're just printing it out. So for example, if we just separate this like so, right? I, A, E, just works. So that's another way you can do it, just in one line. And of course you can do it in another standard way, but if you decide to learn Python, as you kind of go along, you'll notice shorter ways to do things, and it'll become very natural to you. And I mean, obviously it might not be now, but it will over time. Now I have to click this button really fast. Okay. If you're interested in learning more about Python or trying some more of these problems, kind of challenging yourself, writing some algorithms, I encourage you to join the ICPC Discord. Woo. We meet Tuesdays at 3 and Thursdays at 3. The Thursdays at 3 are the beginner, sort of easier questions. And so that's tomorrow. If you want to show up, I highly encourage you to. But you don't have to, obviously. And I do believe that that's it. If you have any questions for me, want to talk about Python, this is my info. And that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Don't forget to sign into the ACM portal for your event later too.
Yeah, I can go back to the QR code in a sec.